going live here in just a minute. We're going to wait for a couple stragglers to get on, but
welcome.
They can't see you yet.
Oh.
All right. So we're just going to chill for just a minute and let some late comers get on.
Yes.
And we'll get started here any minute. So thank you guys so much for joining. And make sure to like our page and share the post if you've got other people that might be interested in buying or selling, or this might be helpful for them.
Give us a thumbs up.
And yeah, definitely give us a thumbs up if you can hear us. Or comment, please, if you can hear us.
Yeah, and I will have my laptop up, so if people do ask questions and comment during this, we can monitor that.
Sure. So here we are. We are actually live. It's not fake. But we'll get started, like I said, just here in a second. We just want to make sure that everybody gets on that wants to see. And please comment below. Shannon's got her laptop here so that we can tell if you can hear us. I think you can, but we'll make sure that you can.
Hopefully you can. Yeah.
So let's dive right in. You ready?
Let's do it.
I think we got an okay from Mr. Mark Berger.
All right.
All right, so let's dig in. All right, so I'm going to pull this up. And we'll skip all the intro stuff.
Of course.
But the first thing we want to talk about is starting your search. This is where most people start. They actually start their home search about 8 to 12 months before they are ready to buy a home. And a lot of people start their search on Zillow. And we know that. We spend a ton of money advertising on Zillow and making sure that we're in front of home buyers. But Zillow is not actually the best place to search. So up here on the screen I have Zillow versus the MLS. And the reason we have that up there is because we did 2 searches. We did this one in Beaver Creek with 74 homes for sale in single-family homes. And then we did a search, the exact same criteria on the MLS, and we actually had 102 homes for sale. So we're missing about 20%, 30%, depending on the market,
Significant amount.
of homes that are for sale just by searching Zillow. The reason for that is Zillow does not get a direct feed from our MLS, which means it's taking 48 to 72 hours for a lot of those homes to pop up. And sometimes they don't ever pop up.
Right. Yeah.
So
especially in this market.
If you are searching,
right.
Yeah, things are going crazy right now. So if you are interested in getting an MLS search set up, we can do that, and we'll get into that here in just a little bit. But we just wanted to show you an example. Again, we have 74 homes for sale and 102 homes for sale in the MLS. So again, about 25-30% difference. Here's another example. This one's showing, this was actually one of our listings that went under contract. We took this screenshot on the same day as the next one, showing for sale on Zillow. But you can see here on the next page it was actually active pending. And that was more than 24 hours later.
Yeah.
So they're just not getting updated quite as frequently as it needs to be. So the data is just, again, we know it's a very user-friendly search. I love searching on there as well, but it's just not.
It's delayed.
It's delayed. It's not quite accurate.
Yeah, which is not going to be good in this market because things go so quickly, obviously, like we just said. So.
Yeah. So the next thing we want to talk about is pocket listings. When you work with an agent, we've got 115 agents between all of our offices, and we've got a lot of top producers in our office. A lot of agents have what we call pocket listings. These are listings that aren't yet available, but will be coming soon. And we actually have our own mobile app. You can see here, Remax Victory. We have our own mobile app that shows when new listings are coming up. So Aaron had one here on March 6th that was going live tomorrow. And we're able to notify our clients ahead of time. Right? I think that one's under contract. I'm not sure.
It is, actually. Yeah.
There you go. But we can notify our clients and say, hey, you want to be the first one to know when stuff comes up. So working with an agent gives you that added bonus. So let's talk about selecting an agent.
Right, absolutely. Very important first step. And you really want to make sure that you find someone that you not only like, but you're super comfortable with, you have chemistry with, and they're going to be guiding you through this whole process. So you need to ensure that that's going to be as smooth for you as possible, and the right person obviously is very important. So whether or not that's us or not, just make sure it's the right fit for you. That's ultimately what we care about. So we like to really kind of kickstart off the relationship by just grabbing coffee and sitting down, grabbing a beer, whatever you really number and getting to know one another, really trying to dive in and find out what your wants and needs are, so we're able to follow through and make sure we know all expectations on both ends.
Well, I think coffee too allows you to get to know the person and what they're really looking for.
Absolutely.
It's hey, let's date before we get married, as opposed to just calling the agent that has the sign in the yard, and their job's to represent the seller.
Right. Yeah.
Or just clicking an agent on Zillow or whatever website it's on. You don't necessarily know them, and you might not have the same personality. So,
exactly. It's super important, and I think it's important too to be in a casual environment too, to kind of.
Well, it's more about helping as opposed to selling.
Right.
Yeah. So, and you may not like Shannon. You may like me better.
Yeah.
No, you probably like Shannon. But so next step, really, and this is actually one of the first steps, the loan process.
Preapproval.
Getting pre-approval is one of the most important things you can do. We work a lot with Rob Wolf at Prime Lending. He actually did my loan. He's done multiple loans for me.
He's the best.
And he is. It's not always, and we recommend that you find a loan officer that has a program that fits you best. But Rob is one of the most knowledgeable people that I've ever met in regards to the loan process, and he knows the ins and outs, and deals close on time, because you may be able to get a lower rate by an eighth of a point or a 16th somewhere else, but if you don't close on time and you've got your stuff in a moving truck, you've got a lot bigger problem for the difference of a couple dollars a month. So give Rob a shout. He's awesome to work with. Yeah.
He will answer on the weekends and at nights too.
Yeah,
which is another huge plus.
Yeah, he's great.
So one of the questions we get asked all the time is, how much money do we need? So we just kind of broke this down to very basic level, and this is just a ballpark of what you might need. It obviously, again, depends on your situation, your credit, how much you have to put down, etc. So down payment wise, 3.5% to 20%, and that really depends on the loan.
Yep.
If it's FHA, it's closer to 3.5%. If you're going conventional, you can avoid what's called PMI, which we're not going to go too far into tonight. But it costs you additional money, additional monthly payment added to your mortgage, basically just because you're not putting 20% down. And they have programs, talk to Rob, again, between 5 and 20% down to avoid PMI.
Right.
Earnest money, $500 to $1,000.
Exactly, it's standard.
Used to be 1%, but now we're getting closer to that 500 to $1,000. And the reason being, we can't make a determination if you, and we'll get into the contract here in a little bit, but if you get into a contract and you walk away because of inspections, which you have the right to do, we can't make a determination that you actually get that money back. So it is a good faith down payment. If you are in a competing offer situation, certainly more makes your offer stronger.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But just be careful. Inspections, this could be $350 to $600. I've seen upwards of $800. It depends on what you're getting.
Depends on the home, depends on mechanics, utilities, everything.
Well,
septic.
Yeah.
So the standards that we see just about every time is going to be a whole house inspection and a termite.
Termite, yeah.
50-50 is radon.
Yeah.
And then well and septic, obviously, if you have those, we want to do those.
Right.
So your appraisal is around $450.
Right. Yep.
It's usually due at the time that they order it, and that's usually within the first 7 to 10 days.
Yeah, exactly, yes.
Then we've got closing costs. Those are about 3%. That's obviously, again, depending on what program you're going with. And those can be paid for by the seller.
Yes, they can. If you negotiate that up front, of course.
Oh, we got to quit touching the table. It must be echoing in the microphone, so my apologies. I don't know if it was me or you.
I don't know. I'm kind of sitting far back. I don't know. Sorry.
So closing costs are about 3%. That means if you're buying a $100,000 house, they're going to be in that $3,000 ballpark.
Right.
And a lot of people don't understand what exactly closing costs are.
Yeah.
So those are going to be your prepaids, your insurance. It's not just all loan officer cost.
Your lender fees, your title company fees, and then your estimated taxes and insurance up front. Correct?
You got it. So that's just a general ballpark. So if you want to take those numbers and put it towards your purchase price, you can get a fairly close estimate.
Yeah.
House hunting. I want to back up before we get into
go ahead.
Inspections, $350 to $600. I did actually a video on this today. This is not one you want to skimp on.
No, absolutely.
If you're buying, it doesn't matter if it's a $50,000 or a $500,000 house.
Yeah.
Don't go with an inspector because he's $50 or $100 cheaper.
Yeah.
I recommend going with an ASHI certified inspector. It's the association. I don't know acronym stands for.
I don't either, but
It's a national association of home inspectors that basically have additional continuing education, that and certifications that they need to go through and training to make sure that they are on top of new codes and everything that's coming out.
I think their standards are higher.
Yes.
Essentially, yeah.
Absolutely.
They're definitely important. So house hunting. So of course we talked about pre-approval is kind of the first step. Once you've got that done, we kind of begin your search, right? So we set you up in our MLS search, which we kind of talked about, and that you're able to pick out whatever houses you're interested in. We suggest not scheduling more than 6 houses because at that point everything kind of runs together. You get very confused. Buyers get confused. But yeah, so we go look at houses.
Right.
Yeah,
If it's 12, let's do it, marathon.
Yeah.
What's the most year of showing?
I'd say like to one person, probably about 12 to 13. Yeah.
And back to back.
I think the most I did was 8, and it was like on a Saturday.
Yeah.
Just all day.
So it happens, but yeah, if you can avoid it, if there's time,
Yeah.
don't try to schedule more than 6 because they will run together.
Yeah, exactly.
One of the other things, go ahead.
Yeah, so obviously we're a team. We take a lot of pride in that. We are here to help each other out. So if Shannon, has to show 12 houses on a Saturday and somebody else wants to see a house as well, me or Tyler will kind of pick up that, and help out, and I'll cover for them and they'll cover for me. Rachel couldn't be here, but yeah, she does a lot of the back end information. So
Well, it allows us to be out, in the field working and working with buyers and sellers as opposed to, being in the office working on paperwork or just some of the stuff
Absolutely.
that is a lot goes on behind the scenes. And
yeah,
Absolutely.
I wish she could be here to tell
I
you a little
know,
bit more.
we're
But
super thankful for her.
yes.
Yeah, she's great. I literally just had a situation where I was driving and someone needed extra initials on a contract, and I just had her send them and take care of it, and it's good to go. And I was out showing houses, so.
And you can't do that when you're driving.
Correct.
So.
Yeah, exactly.
One of the other things that we can do is called virtual showings. We need the homeowner's permission to do this, but we can actually FaceTime you while we're there if you're at work and a house pops up and it may be the one, So the other thing we can do, we've got a really cool camera that does 360 photos and video, which give you a little bit better perspective of the home and allow you to see, more of a floor plan of the home as opposed to just static photos. Because don't get me wrong, we're really good at taking photos for our listings.
Yeah.
But so are some of the other agents, and you can be, I don't want to say deceived, but
Well, and even going back to the FaceTime thing.
I don't know if that's the right word either. Wide angle lenses can make rooms look much larger.
Well, you don't get a sense
Or
flow
slower.
and
Exactly.
how things run together and how things open up into the next room. So it is, FaceTime and cameras can be helpful.
All right, so let's talk about the dreaded contract.
Yeah.
Basically, we broke this down to some nuances. And these are all things that not only affect what you're doing with the purchase, but affect the seller. And a lot of things that we're talking about, when we talk about the nuances that affect the seller, it affects their bottom dollar.
Right.
So you may not think anything of the $500 home warranty you're asking for because, hey, what's $500? Well, when you add up stuff like that, it adds up very quickly to the seller's bottom dollar. So first one's contract price. And typically we would hand out a contract for you to take a look at, but we're live. So contract price, obviously this is a huge one that affects the seller.
Absolutely,
Obviously affects your loan amount as well, what your monthly payment's going to be. Earnest money, again, we talked about that earlier.
Right.
Financing, you've got different levels of financing, whether it's FHA, VA, or conventional. The seller's going to look at those things and consider, hey, which is more likely to close, because VA and FHA appraisals are a little bit more strict when it comes to their guidelines.
Right, absolutely.
Closing costs, we talked about that earlier, could be about 3% of the purchase price. But if you're asking the seller to pay that, again, that's something that's coming out of their pocket. So if you're in a multiple offer situation, it's something you need to consider, hey, it's not an automatic that the seller will pay it anymore, because a lot of offers are coming in with no closing costs.
Or you're going up in price to accommodate that.
Right, and then you could run into an appraisal issue.
Correct.
So the appraisal, that's one of the big things that we look at when we're, hey, will this house appraise? If you're writing in a $115,000 offer on a house that's listed for 105, because that happens.
Right.
So will it appraise, and are you comfortable with that number if it doesn't? If not, you have the ability to walk away, but just be careful. Items that convey. These are typically appliances. You're not going to want to write in the trampoline or the basketball hoop, pool table.
Right.
So put those on a separate addendum if you want to buy them. Don't have those built into the contract. But your refrigerator, your washer, dryers, sometimes
Standard,
dishwashers, anything that's built in, those are typical and standard. Then we talked about the home warranty. Typical costs on that anywhere from $450 up to $700.
Yeah. Say $6, like I say, $5.
And that's another one that sellers will look at if you ask sellers to pay for it. It's just another tag on the
Well, it's nice for first-time home buyers or any home buyer really. If it's something that's legitimate concern that hey, the furnace is going to go out of the water heater.
Yeah, right.
But know that if it's a faulty installation, they're not going to cover it. So they don't cover everything, and you need to look at the fine print of what it does include and what it doesn't. And typically, you have a service fee associated with it as well.
Right.
And they're not super fast at getting somebody out on a weekend.
No, they're not actually at all.
So then we get into inspections, and we'll talk about inspections and post-inspection here in a minute.
Right.
But typically, we have around 10 to 14 days.
14 days, yeah.
To do those inspections. Title insurance, this is one that doesn't get a lot of consideration. And typically we have Ann here with us giving a big spiel about the importance of title insurance. But title insurance is very important because it's protecting your interest in the property. So a lot of times it's very standard in the Dayton market that the seller will pay up to $300 on your title insurance policy. And it's basically making sure that there's no liens or anything that's going on in the deed world, if you will, regarding the home. And
things that maybe were missed down the road, or not down the road, but in the past.
So as she tells the horror story about, hey, there was an unmarked sibling on one of these sales for a big plot of land that, got developed.
Right.
And sure enough, that sibling was like, hey, wait a minute.
I didn't own that.
I didn't get my piece. So he sued, and the people that didn't have title insurance had to hire an attorney to fight off him saying, hey, I own 25% of your house.
Right. Yeah.
So
not good.
Not good. So title insurance.
We don't want that.
Title insurance is for the money. It's a one-time fee. It's not an ongoing. It's very important. We recommend getting it.
It lasts you for the whole life of
the
house
duration.
And
a lot of times they are transferable at a discounted rate.
Didn't know that. Okay.
So when you go to sell, if they already have an existing policy.
Oh, got it. Oh, okay.
So I shouldn't say transferable, but
right.
So closing. Closing comes up, and that's an important date in the contract because when you want to move in doesn't necessarily always line up with when the seller wants to move.
Exactly.
So be I don't want to say accommodating. You just have to know that.
Open, maybe.
Yeah, and if it comes down to hey, we need to close on May 1st, but May 15th may be okay. We can let the other agent know that when we present the offer. So
it's all about communication.
Flexibility with that's great. Occupancy is another one that comes up. Are you willing to give occupancy to the seller to live in the home after you buy it?
Yeah.
It's not very common in our market. It is very common in Springfield.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're seeing more and more sellers because they have a little bit of the upper hand right now.
Yeah.
We're seeing them say, hey, give me 3 days. And you know what?
Or a month.
Or a month.
Yeah. It's whatever you're comfortable with at the end of the day.
Yeah.
At that point, you're going to be the homeowner. So.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that's part of negotiations too.
Well, and you can negotiate a lease back and say, hey, we're going to give you 30 days, but you're going to pay us rent for those 30 days, and that's the best way to do it.
Right.
Then we get into acceptance. Typically, when we're writing contracts, it's about 24 hours from the time that we write the contract to when we get a response.
It's about standard.
But just know that you may not always get a response.
Yeah.
The sellers don't have to respond.
Right.
So once you get your offer accepted, now what?
All your homework begins, right?
Yes.
So basically, all those timelines we kind of just discussed begin the following day after you're officially in contract, and inspections is a huge piece of that. So like Tyler said before, you have about 10 to 14 days to conduct all inspections, and that's really your time to get into the home and really get in there and make sure you're inspecting and you're knowing what you're buying. You're responsible for that as the buyer. So, and that's your only time really to access the home too, because once you're done with inspections, you don't really have access till later on.
Right.
So
You have a final walkthrough.
yeah, exactly. So, that's time to take your measurements and, like I said, just really making sure that you do your termites, your whole house, and then at that point you do have the option to either negotiate repairs with the seller,
Right.
which is probably, I would say, the most common, unless there's something that really came up that just really freaks you out or makes you no longer comfortable with the purchase. So then at that point, like Tyler said previously, you do have the option to walk away. At that point. So, but yes, that's our post-inspection period. Then at that point is when you're negotiating terms of the inspections.
Yeah, and you usually have 5 to 7 days
Right.
for that time period to come to some sort of agreement.
You're the table tapper.
Oh, I am. I talk with my hands.
That's kind of why I'm
But so you kind of have different scenarios that can happen. You come up with a list of things that are concerning for you. We try to stick to the more
Habitability and safety items.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't want to ask them to, replace or fix a door that's not quite latching, or a nail pop in the
A
ceiling.
loose toilet even is kind of
It can be considered minor.
But it can cause major problems too,
Absolutely,
so it's something to consider.
all negotiations. And sellers do have the chance, once you submit that post repair, they can kind of come back and say, yep, we'll do all of it, we'll do some of it, nope, we're not doing any, or they can offer you some sort of money towards those at closing, which obviously has to be made out to whatever company is going to make
It's got to go into escrow
Right.
to the company.
Yeah, you
It
can't just,
can't just put it in your pocket because
Right.
can't just get a check.
It's not allowed.
Nope.
But
then you play the waiting game.
Yeah.
This is the really boring part.
Jeopardy signal.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it is a waiting game. You may have some additional paperwork that you need to get to the loan officer.
Yeah.
This is when we typically recommend getting your utilities. We send you a list of all the utility providers and their information so you can contact them and get those transferred over for day of closing. Because the last thing,
Sorry.
last thing that you ever want to do is move to a house and not have water or air conditioning.
Electricity.
Whatever it is. So we recommend getting those done. And then, cheers.
Woo!
Yeah, and then you own a home, right?
Congratulations.
So closings changed a little bit. We're not always closing at the same time as the seller.
Right.
Yeah.
We can fit your schedule and obviously the seller's schedule as well. But
You do have to close when the title company and banks are open, though.
Mm-hmm.
So it cannot be the weekends. That's kind of a common question.
Yeah.
we can sometimes do it after work and sometimes later
Right.
in the evening.
Right.
Sometimes first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But just be aware that that's a big day, and you're going to want to the new funding laws, good funds laws say that you've got to transfer funds via wire. So if you haven't wired money before, and we will never provide you with wire information.
No.
There's a lot of scams associated with that, and emails getting hacked. So we recommend that you contact the title company directly, and we put them in touch with you as well,
Right.
so you can verify that information and triple check that you're sending a big amount of money to them.
To the right person. Yeah.
And then at closing, you're bringing
Valid driver's license.
valid driver's
Yeah.
license, maybe a second form of ID,
Yep.
and a checkbook just in case.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You never know.
So, all right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining.
Yeah.
We're going to go ahead and open it up for questions.
After questions, and then if there are no questions, obviously you feel free to reach out to us later and ask questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go back over to this page.
Should I open up the
No. If you need to get a hold of us, you can visit us at tylermortongroup.com or
Yep.
visit our website. That is our website.
Facebook.
Yeah, Facebook Messenger.
Obviously,
Yeah.
you're on our Facebook page right now.
Yeah.
But
Whatever's
Yeah.
convenient.
no questions. We're going to go ahead and wrap this up. And again, thank you guys so much for joining,
Hey.
and hope to hear from you soon.